Marmion by Sir Walter Scott. Introduction to Canto Third. To William Erskine, Esquire. A Chestial Ettrick Forest. Like April morning clouds that pass with varying shadow o'er the grass, and imitate, on field and furrow, life's checkered scene of joy and sorrow. Like streamlet of the mountain, north now in a torrent racing forth, now winding slow its silver train, and almost slumbering on the plain. Like breezes of the autumn day, whose voice inconstant dies away, and ever swells again as fast, when the ear deems its murmur past. Thus, various, my romantic theme flits, winds or sinks a morning dream. Yet pleased our eye pursues the trace of light and shades in constant race. Pleased, views the rivulet afar, weaving its maze irregular. And pleased, we listen as the breeze heaves its wild sigh through autumn trees. Then, wild as cloud, or stream, or gale, flow unconfined, my tale. Need I to thee, dear Erskine, tell I love the license all too well, in sounds now lowly and now strong, to raise the desultory song? Oft, when mid such capricious chime, some transient fit of lofty rhyme to thine kind judgment seemed excuse for many an error of the muse, oft hast thou said, if, still misspent, thine hours to poetry are lent, go, and to tame thy wandering course, quaff from the fountain at the source. Approach those masters, o'er whose tomb immortal laurels ever bloom, instructive of the feebler bard. Still from the grave their voices heard. From them and from the past they showed. Choose honored guide and practiced road, nor ramble on through brake and maze with harpers rude of barbarous days. Or, deem'st thou not our later time yields topic meet for classic rhyme? Hast thou no elegiac verse for Brunswick's venerable hearse? What? Not a line, a tear, a sigh, when valor bleeds for liberty? O hero of that glorious time, when, with unrivaled light sublime, through martial Austria, and though all the might of Russia and the Gaul, though banded Europe stood her foes, the star of Brandenburg arose. Thou couldst not live to see her beam forever quenched in Jenna's stream. Lamented chief, it was not given to thee to change the doom of heaven and crush that dragon in its birth, predestined scourge of guilty earth. Lamented chief, not thine the power to save in that presumptuous hour, when Prussia hurried to the field and snatched the spear, but left the shield. Valor and skill 'twas thine to try, and tried in vain 'twas thine to die. Ill had seemed thy silver hair, the last, the bitterest pang to share, for princedoms reft and scutcheons riven, and birthrights to usurpers given. Thy lands, thy children's wrongs to feel, and witness woes thou couldst not heal. On thee relenting heaven bestows, for honored life, an honored close. And when revolves, in time's sure change, the hour of Germany's revenge, when, breathing fury for her sake, some new Arminius shall awake. Her champion, ere he strike, shall come to whet his sword on Brunswick's tomb. Or, of the Red Cross hero, teach dauntless in the dungeons as on breach, alike to him the sea, the shore, the brand, the bridle, or the oar. Alike to him the war that calls its votaries to the shattered walls, which the grim Turk, besmeared with blood, against the invincible made good, or that whose thundering voice could wake the silent of the polar lake, when stubborn Russ and mettled Swede on the warped weave their death game played, or that where vengeance and affright howled round the father of the fight, who snatched on Alexandria's sand the conqueror's wreath with dying hand. Or, if to touch such chord be thine, restore the ancient tragic line, and emulate the notes that rung from the wild harp, which silent hung by silver Avon's holy shore, till twice in 100 years rolled o'er, when she, the bold enchantress, came, with fearless hand and heart on flame, from the pale willow snatched the treasure, and swept it with a kindred measure, till Avon's swans, while rung the grove with Montfort's hate and Basil's love, awakening at the inspired strain, deem their own Shakespeare lived again. Thy friendship thus thy judgment wronging, with praises not to me belonging, in task more meet for mightiest powers, wouldst thou engage my thriftless hours? But say, my Erskine, hast thou weighed that secret power by all obeyed, which warps not less the passive mind, its source concealed or undefined? Whether an impulse that has birth soon as the infant wakes on earth, one with our feelings and our powers, and rather part of us than ours, or whether, fittier term, the sway of habit formed in earlier day, how derived, its force confessed, rules with despotic sway the breast, and drags us on by viewless chain, while taste and reason plead in vain. Look east, and ask the Belgian why, beneath Batvia's sultry sky, he seeks not eager to inhale the freshness of the mountain gale, content to rear his whitened wall beside the dank and dull canal? He'll say, from youth he loved to see the white sail gliding by the tree, or see yon weather-beaten hind, whose sluggish herds before him wind, whose tattered plaid and rugged cheek his northern clime and kindred speak. Through England's laughing meads he goes, and England's wealth around him flows. Ask if it would content him well at ease in those gay plains to dwell, where hedgerows spread a verdant screen, and spires and forests intervene, and the neat cottage peeps between. No, not for these will he exchange his dark Lochaber's boundless range, not for fair Devon's mead forsake Ben Nevis Grey and Carey's Lake. Thus, while I ape the measure wild of tales that charmed me yet a child, rude though they be, still with the chime return the thoughts of early time, and feelings, roused in life's first day, glow in the line and prompt the lay. Then rise those crags, that mountain tower which charmed my fancy's wakening hour, though no broad river swept along to claim, perchance, heroic song. Though sighed no groves in summer gale to prompt of a love a softer tale. Though puny a streamlet's speed claimed homage from a shepherd's reed, yet was poetic impulse given by the green hill and clear blue heaven. It was a barren scene and wild, where naked cliffs were rudely piled, but ever and anon between lay velvet tufts of loveliest green, and well the lonely infant knew recesses where the wallflower grew, and honeysuckle loved to crawl up the low crag and ruined wall. I deemed such nooks the sweetest shade the sun in all its round surveyed, and still I thought that shattered tower the mightiest work of human power, and marveled as the aged hind with some strange tale bewitched my mind, of forayers who, with headlong force, down from that strength had spurred their horse, their southern rapine to renew, far in the distant Chevois blue, and home returning filled the hall with revel, wassail rout, and brawl. Methought that still with trump and clang the gateway's broken arches rang. Methought grim features seamed with scars glared through the window's rusty bars, and ever by the winter hearth old tales I heard of woe or mirth, of lovers' slights, of ladies' charms, of witches' spells, of warriors' arms, of patriots' battles won of old by Wallace White and Bruce the Bold, of later fields, feud and fight, when pouring from their Highland height the Scottish clans in headlong sway had swept the scarlet ranks away, while stretched at length upon the floor, again I fought each combat o'er, pebbles and shells in order laid, the mimic ranks of war displayed, and onward still the Scottish lion bore, and still the scattered Southron fled before. Still, with vain fondness could I trace anew each kind, familiar face that brightened at our evening fire. From the thatched mansion's gray-haired sire, wise without learning, plain and good, and sprung of Scotland's gentler blood, whose eye, in age, quick, clear, and keen, showed what in youth its glance had been, whose doom discording neighbors sought, content with equity unbought. To him, the venerable priest, our frequent and familiar guest, whose life and manners well could paint alike the student and the saint. Alas, whose speech oft too I broke with gambol rude and timeless joke, for I was wayward, bold, and wild, A self-willed imp, a grandame's child, but half a plague and half a jest was still endured, beloved, caressed. From me thus nurtured dost thou ask the classic poet's well-conned task? Nay, Erskine, nay. On the wild hill let the wild heath bell flourish still. Cherish the tulip, prune the vine, but freely let the woodbine twine, and leave untrimmed the eglantine. Nay, my friend, nay, since oft thy praise hath given fresh vigor to my lays, since oft thy judgment could refine my flattened thought, or cumbrous line, still kind as is thy wont, attend, and in the minstrel spare the friend. Though wild as cloud, as stream, as gale, flow forth, flow unrestrained, my tale.